There's something called your enteric nervous system. It's like your gut brain. And it's like a brain in your gut. And it has all the same neurotransmitters. They've done some studies on it. And they think it dates way back to, I can't remember exactly why we needed it, but it had to do a long time ago that we needed this gut brain. It's still there, though.
Right.
And it will tell you, if you tune into your gut brain, your enteric nervous system, it will tell you what you want, what it wants to eat, what your body wants to eat. You know, I always tell clients, your body is never going to crave like a Reese's or a Snickers or anything like that. It wants nutrition. But we've gotten so far away and out of touch with our own bodies in this society. We live in these concrete jungles, and you know, we've got everything bombarding us every day telling us what we should be eating. We know way better. So you can, you know, one thing that you can do to get in touch with your gut brain is just, you know, ask yourself before you eat or drink anything. You know, if you're drinking water, or if you've got food, just ask, is this for my highest good? You know, how will this make me feel? Just ask that question before you eat it, and you'll get an answer. And whatever the answer is, it's the right answer. You know, sometimes we'll still eat it, even if the answer's no.
That's true.
We do. That's just how we do, and then we'll probably, you know, feel that later on.
Exactly.
But, you know, at least you get in touch that way. You know what's going to happen.
Yeah, and usually, like, if you notice the difference in meals, I mean, if you sit down and you eat a lot of meat, a lot of carbs, a lot of breads, you're going to have to sit down and, like, hibernate, I always say.
Yeah.
You know, for like an hour before you go out.
Right,
but if you eat, like, something light, something like a salad, some fruits and vegetables, you could probably go run a marathon.
Yeah.
In fact, I know you can go run a marathon because I've done that. You know, you eat and you go run. You feel vibrant. You don't need to go hibernate.
Right,
like,
right.
I need to go sit on the couch.
Certain foods are really, really heavy.
Yeah.
And it's not that those are necessarily bad foods. I don't like to label food so much because I think that gets into sort of judging ourselves.
Right.
But definitely when you're eating certain foods, you know, it's about balancing the meal. And then eating, I always like to say to eat smaller meals, because then it doesn't, when you're digesting food, it requires a lot of energy to digest food. So that drains your energy. So if you're eating smaller meals throughout the day, it actually gives you energy. You don't want to you don't want it to suck your energy. You want it to give you energy.
Right.
So it takes less energy, you know, if you eat a smaller meal.
Now let's talk about sugar, because
Yeah.
I know that's huge. Let's talk about
Yeah.
let's go right into sugar.
Okay.
And just explain to me, you know, first of all, the effects sugar has on the body, and then, you know, how to balance out, like if someone who likes the sugar, and maybe where to get a natural form of sugar,
Yeah.
or, you know, the difference between artificial and then like the sugar in, you know, a natural sugar from like fruits and vegetables and different things like that.
Well, as you may or may not realize, the overconsumption of sugar has led to like the explosion of hypoglycemia and diabetes that we're seeing today. Right now, I think the statistics are 72% of adult Americans are overweight or obese, and 34% of children.
Wow.
Yeah, that's the highest it's ever been. This is the first generation of kids that's not expected to outlive their parents, and it's because of diabetes, obesity, you know, all these diseases that we're seeing. It's directly related to diet, to sugar. Sugar is highly toxic. Causes a lot of inflammation in your body, which is one of the root causes of illness. The thing about it is, though, is that we're human beings and we love sweet things. So it's not that I suggest people take all sweetness out of their diet or out of their life. That's just not going to work. It's not realistic.
Right.
We've gotten so far away from the natural sweetness in foods, though, because of all the highly refined sugars that are out there. Things like high fructose corn syrup, you know, they're just really, really refined. So we're constantly upping the quotient of, you know, sweetness. It's just never sweet enough.
Right.
Even people, they'll eat sugar and then it just doesn't satisfy the sweetness that they're looking for.
They go back for more.
Yeah, and then that leads to binge eating, overeating, and things like that. So what we want to do basically is, you know, cleanse our palates of all that refined sweetness, and be able to get back to the natural sweetness in food. Sweet is one of your taste buds. You've got sweet, sour, salty, pungent, and bitter. So it's ludicrous, in my opinion, to think that you're never going to eat sweet again.
Right.
You're going to want it. Your body's going to crave it. So let's figure out a good quality sweetener that is maybe lower glycemic index. It's more natural, and it's going to give you that satisfaction that you're looking for.
Now the sugar. Obviously, we had sugar back in the day, way before we came into like dieting. You know,
Right,
like,
yeah.
we had sugar. but from what I understand, it wasn't until we started processing these sugars and making them into a toxic. I mean, natural sugar. Let's focus on just natural sugar for a minute here.
Yeah.
Natural sugar. What exactly is the difference between that and a artificial sugar sweetening?
Well, refined sugar, I like to say, is the ultimate empty calorie, and the reason for that is because it's when it's processed, all the fiber and the nutrients and the vitamins that are in it are processed out.
They're like disregarded.
Yeah, so it's when you ingest it, it doesn't have any of that on its own, so it has to draw from your body's own store in order to process it. So it creates a deficiency in your body.
And this is how like your insulin gets burned out, and this is
it sends your blood sugar up and down.
Okay.
You know, it's just such a rush on your blood sugar. It spikes it, so it'll send it really high. And then that creates like nervousness, excitability, you know, anxiety. That's when people they typically feel that way as a result. But then soon after, it creates you crash. It'll make you crash really fast, usually within like an hour or so. And then you get lethargic, depressed, you know, irritable. So that's how the refined sugar just doesn't, it's not as good of an option, say, as like a natural sweetener. So a natural sweetener is just in its own form. It's natural. So things like agave or stevia, however you pronounce that, brown rice syrup, which is one of my favorites. It's extracted from brown rice.
And these all taste good, by the way. I wanted to say that because I've had the agave nectar.
So, yeah.
Really
I think they taste great. They're low glycemic index. Stevia has a 0 glycemic index. Agave is around a 30 versus refined sugar, which is like an 80 or 100. So, you know, the glycemic index is basically your blood sugar, you know, like your blood sugar, the glucose.
Which is how people become hyperglycemic and
right, because of all the fluctuations, in your blood sugar.
They're not getting the proper amount, the right amount of, or maybe just the purest form of sugar, I should say, right?
Right. Well, instead of the glucose that we're using, you know, that our bodies need for energy, it's just it causes your blood sugar to deregulate so much. So all these ups and downs puts a lot of stress on your pancreas, because your pancreas is sending out insulin in order to regulate the blood sugar. But if you're constantly eating a diet that's, you know, throwing your blood sugar off like that, it's just, it kind of throws the whole system off. And that's what leads to diabetes.
Right.
Hypoglycemia, which is low blood sugar, is a precursor to diabetes. So after years and years and years of taxing your system like this, it just ultimately wears it out.
Yeah, your body starts to shut down.
Yeah, it can't take it anymore. It's too much stress on your body.
Now it's
one of the #1 internal stresses is hypoglycemia.
Now, when I was a child, you know, back then, you know, we weren't really aware of these things as much as we are now.
Oh, right.
And so, you know, I was sugar. You know, I basically pretty much could have looked like, if they say you look like what you eat, I would have been a sugar cube.
Yeah, me too.
Because I was doing, you know, the pixie sticks, the different things like that. And I was just all about sugar because I was bouncing off walls. I loved it.
Right.
I had so much sugar in my system, and I understand the acidity that it causes in our bodies, and I'm all about the acid-alkaline balance.
Right.
So as a kid, when I look back at these things, before I changed my diet, my way of life, I was so acidic that even at, I think I was like, maybe 6 or 7, and I had rotted out all of my teeth. They went black, they rotted completely out. Luckily enough, they weren't my adult teeth. So, you know, I started to get my teeth back, and I was like, wow, I got really lucky. But that just shows you that, you know, cavities are caused not just by the sugar and the breakdown of the bodies, and not just by sugar, but it's the acid that the sugar causes as well. So in this, the sugar is the source of lot of the acid that's in our body.
Right.
But looking back at that, what is the effect of someone like myself who has intaken a lot of sugar as a kid and changed now? How much damage do you feel might have been done, or is there a way to correct that and start to rebalance?
Absolutely. I think the human body is the most amazing thing, and if given the chance, it will heal itself. I'm a child of the 70s. I grew up, you know, when like Pop Rocks and soda pop were like all the rage. And high fructose corn syrup started saturating the market in the 70s. And that's one of the things I think that we're set up against, is a lot of people don't realize how much sugar is in the food. It's just kind of been quietly filling the grocery store shelves without our knowledge. And then they get hooked on it because it's more cheaply produced, and it's very attractive because it's less expensive. But I work with clients in their 60s and 70s even, and I never ever think that there's no hope for them.
Right.
I firmly believe that you can reverse these conditions in your body. So hypoglycemia, you know, balancing your blood sugar, that's the first thing. Insulin resistance, which you know, it goes right along with hypoglycemia. That's when when the insulin becomes resistant to your cells, and you start to store, you know, store it as fat, store the glucose as fat instead of it penetrating your cells and being used for energy. I firmly believe you can convince that or reverse that. I think diabetes is completely reversible.
Yes.
You know, if someone is willing to do it.
And I've seen in my field, I've seen many of those cases reversed.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Even things like cancer. You know,
Completely.
And sugar actually has
not
a link
death
to that
sentence.
as well.
Doesn't mean that your life is over. It just depends on your mindset and what you're willing to do.
How far you're willing to really push yourself and take it. You know, you got to do your part. You know, there's other things that work with you, but you got to do your part.
Absolutely.
You know?
I've worked with clients that, you know, just through over a course of about 3 months, they've gotten off their blood pressure, their thyroid meds.
That's awesome. That's amazing.
So
that's really good.
Yeah.
Now on the flip side of that, say someone is so extreme, and I've been here before as well in my research. You take something, you're learning, and you want it so bad, you go all the way to the left, and that's not good. You know, just like, you know, if you're overly acidic and you go all the way to the left, you're going to become overly alkaline, and that's alkalosis, and you know, and you're just extremely bad. As you know, so say someone is listening to this or watching this and they're thinking, I'm going to eliminate sugar altogether. What is the downside of that?
The downside of that is that I feel that you set yourself up for self-sabotage. Again, going back to cravings, you can live without it for a little while, but your body ultimately is going to say, I want something sweet. So it's about replacing, you know, the choices with a better quality choice, in my opinion. The other thing, too, is you have to understand when it comes to cravings that it's emotional and physical. So there's physical reasons why we crave, but there's also emotional reasons why we crave. So a brilliant concept that I was taught at IIN, Integrative Nutrition, again, was about primary foods. So your primary foods are things like healthy relationships, fulfilling careers, spirituality, physical activity. Those are the foods that really feed you in life. And when those are in balance, the food on your plate is secondary. You know, that just naturally balances out. So you got to look to that part of your life too. Why am I craving? You know, what is it that I really want? Is that I'm looking for like someone to, you know, love me, hug me, pay attention to me? Do I need more physical activity? Do I have a connection to my, you know, higher power, however you define that? You know, am I doing work that inspires me? So many people aren't. Yeah. You know, and they're stuck in these ways of being that they think they have to be in. And I was that way for years. And
like yourself, like you started your business, you started finding these researchers and getting out there and helping people in the most down time of our economy.
Right.
You know, and that's
scariest time.
What I say is about the economy, and you're a fine example of that, and that is the fact that right now there's not a lot of careers available because they've been eliminated. There's jobs been gone. There's people that can't find jobs. You have, you know, 500 plus people applying for the same position, same job, and they'll take any pay. We're in a very, very interesting time right now, but at the same time, people are picking up on old dreams, old goals. They're reevaluating things like, you know, maybe I should have did this, and they find themselves in this career that's no longer here, so now they go back to it. I can still make that work. That is where the passion and the energy and your life really becomes fulfilled. That's when you really make the connection, and you've made that connection by far, you know, by doing this. I'm extremely happy to be able to connect with you and have you a part of this because, you know, you're on a level that is helping people on so many different ways.